Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Before we start, a little housekeeping. The Civil War was from 1861 to 65. I misspoke last Friday. I'm not sure why I said it was a whole century later. Maybe it's Lincoln 2.0. The script was right, I just misspoke. Not quite sure why I did that. Either way, I apologize and wanted to make sure it's been corrected. Now to Texas. The Supreme Court dismissed the case Friday evening on the grounds it had no standing under Article 2 to sue other states over how they conduct their own elections. In other words, Texas has no valid interest under the Constitution in attempting to police other states' voting procedures. Now, despite the Supreme Court ruling, that doesn't mean it's over. Trump's attorney, Jenna Ellis, tweeted shortly after, saying it makes sense that a state would not have standing to challenge voting irregularities that only impacted statewide elections. But when states join together in a process to elect a president and several states cheat, that violation of rules impacts the whole electoral college. Out of the 9 justices, 2 of them, Justice Thomas and Alito, wanted to hear the case. The others did not. And another Trump lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, said on Newsmax the court's decision was a, quote, terrible, terrible mistake. He added, basically, the courts are saying they want to stay out of this. They don't want to give us a hearing. They don't want the American people to hear the facts. The former New York City mayor said these facts will remain an open sore in our history unless they get resolved. They need to be heard, they need to be aired, and somebody needs to make a decision on whether they're true or false. And some courts are going to have the courage to make that decision. While the Texas suit may have been dismissed, attorney Lin Wood also filed a suit which has been accepted. And Michigan findings on forensic examination of the 22 Dominion machines were sealed, as the outcome from that was damning. And President Trump wrote on Twitter, the Supreme Court really let us down. No wisdom, no courage. Speaking of courage, the core issue seems to be a lack of courage. Following the Supreme Court's dismissal, many are wondering what Trump's next steps can be. President Trump then tweeted, "We have just begun to fight." In other words, Trump is Trump. Many have pointed out at his age, most would choose retirement. But Trump has proven to be quite the wild card over the years, and instead of choosing the easy way out, he has chosen to stay and fight, in his words. So what does it mean the fight has only begun? Well, let's take a look. There are different avenues available. One option is within the legal framework. More on that later. And meanwhile, shortly after the Supreme Court's announcement, the Texas Republican Party issued a notice suggesting states secede. Texas GOP Chairman Allen West said perhaps law-abiding states should bond together and form a union of states that will abide by the Constitution. Some people have talked about fighting with weapons. The Constitution does speak of overthrowing the government. These tactics don't seem to be the path Trump is considering. So what legal tactics are there? Some have brought up why Trump doesn't issue the executive order to target the media, high-tech companies, and actions by some state election officials. Previous episodes cover the similarities and differences between President Trump and Lincoln back in the 1860s. One of the major differences was Lincoln had a government that was loyal to him. He was thus able to take a heavy-handed approach to confront the media and those who opposed him. That's not possible for Trump currently, so what other options are there? In the past days, Trump's legal team has come up with a plan. President Trump also signaled his approval Friday night. The plan is to file retooled lawsuits in each one of the swing states. According to Giuliani, they are just a version of the one that was brought in the Supreme Court. But the lawsuits will include President Trump and the elected candidates as plaintiffs as well. Giuliani said if the state doesn't have standing, surely the President of the United States has standing. And certainly the electors in the states have standing. So they will be bringing those very cases right in those courts starting today. Giuliani said, and let's see what excuse they can try to use to avoid having a hearing on that. Now, one of the biggest advantages of the Texas suit is that it focuses on the state government's violation of laws under the Constitution before and during the election, instead of focusing on the allegation of fraud. Therefore, the process requires much less evidence. The Trump legal team called for the judges to have courage, saying they should come forward and hear the cases. Many have pointed out the dismissal is seen as the judges and the Supreme Court not wanting to get involved, which has been mentioned in previous episodes that might be the case after Bush versus Gore in 2000, when all eyes were on the Supreme Court's decision in that case. It seems then courage is a critical issue now, and what's missing both in the judicial system and in society. That being said, the courage of politicians in democratic countries is not necessarily determined by the politicians themselves. Their power comes from their voters. Going back to the Constitution, it's we the people after all. Even if the Texas lawsuit were accepted and won in the Supreme Court, it is still up to the public opinion to decide how the state legislatures vote for the president. Only with a strong public opinion will those politicians have courage. And that is what the Trump legal team is doing and has been doing since November 3rd. They have been speaking at hearings in various states and providing evidence in courts in order to present the facts and inform the public. With these efforts, many elected representatives in the swing states have stepped forward to support the legal fight. The Texas lawsuit in the Supreme Court brought out the support from 126 GOP House representatives and attorney generals from 18 states, as well as numerous state-level representatives and senators in the swing states. And every effort is a call for justice and courage. Recently, there has been a crackdown on big tech on limiting information that's accessible to the public. And now currently the media has begun to talk about things they have been covering up for a long time. For example, the New Yorker magazine published a story about Dianne Feinstein, a 87-year-old Democrat senator, on December 10th, questioning her deteriorating memory and cognitive abilities. According to the article, Senator Feinstein's condition has frustrated her aides, as well as other Democrats, including the minority leader, Senator Chuck Schumer. Now, the timing of this article is a bit strange. Feinstein has had this problem for quite some time. So why is this being brought up by the media now? The same thing happened with the Biden family. Recently, Hunter Biden published a statement saying that federal prosecutors are investigating him over his tax affairs. What is surprising is the media followed up with this and reported that besides tax issues, investigators in Delaware and Washington were also probing potential money laundering and Hunter Biden's foreign ties. Previously, major media outlets seemed determined not to cover these topics. NPR even issued a notice saying, "We don't want to waste our time on stories that are not really stories." So why the sudden shift in reporting these stories now? Some say the media is developing a conscience. Who knows? But others point out it could be a rising power struggle within the Biden team. Biden said something rather strange in an interview with CNN's Jack Tapper. He began by saying his wife and Kamala Harris have become friends. He went on to say if there was ever massive disagreement between him and Kamala, it would be like when he was Barack Obama's VP. Quote, "If I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement that we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign," end quote. It seems an interesting way to deal with conflicts on moral grounds. The Wall Street Journal, meanwhile, reported that President Trump is seriously considering whether to appoint a special counsel to conduct an investigation into the allegations of election fraud and the Hunter Biden scandal. This is an important move. President Trump has been frustrated with the DOJ's handling of the election fraud allegations and the Biden issues. This, as major media have maintained the allegations about election fraud are all false, that there is no fraud at all. But if a special counsel is appointed, that team would have governmental power and resources to conduct an investigation. For instance, the Mueller investigation against President Trump took 2 years, included 15 attorneys led by Mueller, and cost $32 million of taxpayer money. Now, many have mentioned the Electoral College will meet on December 14th, which is today, and question if the effort to investigate these claims is still even useful. But, as previously mentioned in other episodes, the only constitutionally binding date is January 20th, the day the new president assumes office. The other days are not constitutionally binding. Even if Biden was considered to be the president-elect after the meetings of the Electoral College delegations, if substantial evidence of fraud is revealed afterwards, the current U.S. legal system can overturn the results. In fact, the U.S. Constitution's first and second article and the 12th Amendment provide solutions to that. After the Electoral College delegations vote on December 14th, on January 6th, The Congress meets in joint session to count the electoral votes. If a senator and House member jointly submit an objection in writing, each House would retire to its chamber to consider it. Title 17 of the United States Code lays out procedures for each House to follow in debating and voting on an objection. These procedures limit debate on the objection to not more than 2 hours, during which each member may speak only once and for not more than 5 minutes. Then both houses must vote separately to agree to the objection. Otherwise, if either house does not accept the objection fails and the vote or votes are counted. According to Harvard Law professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz, if Trump can keep the Biden count below 270, then the matter goes to the House of Representatives, where of course there is a Republican majority among the delegations of states, and you vote by state if it goes to the House. Currently, the GOP has a 26 to 23 state delegation majority in the House of Representatives. Therefore, this is a path President Trump can win. This judicial avenue exists under the legal framework of the United States, and in this process, the search for the truth and the formation of a strong public opinion is very crucial. But this is not an easy path, partly because the new House of Representatives still has the majority of Democrats. This would require very strong evidence and public opinion to sway some Democratic members to make such a choice to support the objection of those illegitimate electoral votes. So it all comes back to the key issues, which are truth and courage. On that note, if you want more information on election anomalies, we have a new exclusive report by senior investigative reporter and host of Crossroads, Joshua Philipp. It's a secret investigation starting back in early November to uncover the truth behind what's happening right now. But it can't be seen on YouTube. If you'd like to watch it, find it exclusively on the Epoch Times or NTD. I'll have the links below. So a little bit about it, the doc delves into what happened on election night. As conflicting voices clamor on and the election integrity comes into question, the Epoch Times investigative team quickly went to work after election night. In an attempt to uncover suspicious issues hidden behind the election, investigative reporter Joshua Philipp navigated across the country to each swing state, interviewing whistleblowers, big data experts, and election experts. It sounds quite exciting. I haven't seen it yet, but that's what I'll be doing after this. So check out the links below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates from Deep Dive. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to let me know what you think below. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.